Hey guys, we're back. Alright, so in this video what we're going to be looking at is functions in Python. Python can be thought of as an object-oriented language when it wants to be. Other times it's just a dynamically interpreted language that doesn't have to be built off of objects and classes. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But if somebody said Python was a strictly object-oriented language, they would be an idiot. Because it's not strictly object-oriented. You can do object-oriented programming in Python, and it's not nearly as crazy as trying to do object-oriented programming in something like Perl, which completely isn't made for it. Python kind of finds a balance in between something like Perl and something like Java or C Sharp. So in C Sharp or Java, everything has to be objects and classes, and you have like these modifiers and all this bullshit that you have to deal with. In Python, you don't have to deal with any of that. We're going to get into object-oriented stuff in a moment, but in this particular video, we're going to be looking at a particular part that will kind of apply to object-oriented programming, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing for this particular video. So we're going to be looking at what are called functions in Python. A function can be thought of as a reusable chunk of code, right? So you can define what you want that code to do, and you can define data that gets passed into that function so that it can actually perform something on that data. That's typically what you do. You define a function, pass some data, and the data gets interpreted and then returned back to you in some sort of format that you're looking for. So when we get into object-oriented programming, a function is the same damn thing as a method. The only difference is that a method is attached to an object. And in this video, we're going to be just looking at the function that doesn't have to be attached to an object. Therefore, you don't have to create the object to use, this block of code. A function can just exist inside of your page. So in order to create a function, all we have to do is just say define, and then we can just name it whatever you want. And I believe typically in Python world, people typically write a function like that, which I think is I don't know, it's kind of ugly, I guess. So now the editor is going to indent your line, so everything always has to remain indented. You're going to have an indentation after this function, and whatever goes on inside of here is going to be executed whenever you call this function. So let's just do a simple print statement. And we'll say we called a function, and we'll get out of this. And so now that that's been defined, what I can do down here is I can just simply say our function and just call that like this. So if I went ahead and I ran this program, we called a function. So what happened was, I'll put a breakpoint here. This gets executed first. This is just being defined, and what that means is that when the program is compiling, this is going to be like, oh, okay, we create a function, but it stores it in memory, so that way the Python knows that it's there, and then it will continue execution. So if I said another statement down here and another one down here, eventually it's going to get to this block right here, and then it's going to call this function that has already been determined in memory. So if we went ahead and we ran this, let's go ahead and do that. You can see that this actually gets called, and let's go ahead and just to give you an example, you'll see which one gets called first. So this will get called first, then this. So you see the function gets hit, and then if I went ahead and I let it proceed, then it's going to hit the actual function and do the print screen. So this gets evaluated first, and when the program's running through, this just gets stored in memory. The reason why that's important is because I've told you before that Python reads top to bottom, left to right. So if I went ahead and I tried to actually reference this before Python even knows what the hell it is, then we're going to end up having a problem. And you can see we get an error. It says, hey, our function is not defined. What the F? But all you got to do is just keep in mind that Python needs to know it exists before you try to reference it. And that's why I stress the top to bottom, left to right. It's really important that you guys know that. So once again, the functions are cool because I can have this this piece of code, and right here you're like, well, why would I do that? Well, let's go ahead and make it a little bit more helpful, basically. So what I can do here is I can say my integer 1, my integer 2. And what we can do is we can actually say print my integer 1 plus my integer 2. So what we can do is call this like sum, right? So we're summing two values. Now I can call this function, and I can pass in two arguments, which can be any sort of integer that I want to add. So this is actually going to print out the value of 10. Oh, I'm sorry, I changed my function name here. So just so you guys know, that error was because it's like, hey, look for this function, but it's not there. It's the same error that we showed before. So now I changed that to the right function name that we changed that to. And if I run that, this will output the value of 10. And the reason why is because we passed in two integers, which here's the first integer. This 8 gets assigned to my integer 1. This 2 gets assigned to my integer 2. And then inside the actual function code, we use both of those integers that were passed in. So what I can do is I can isolate large chunks of code and really complicated code into their own unique little things, and then identify a name that says, what is this stuff trying to do? So as we get into more complex programs, it's really important to try to understand, why a function would be necessary to try to, prevent having. Number one, it keeps things concise, right, and clear, and it prevents duplication. So instead of having to, completely add these two values over and over and again, I can just simply call sum, and I can do this as many times as I want and pass in different values. If I run it, I didn't have to actually expressly say add this and this for each time I ran it. The function already handles that for me. So that is the purpose of a function in Python. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Have a good day. Bye.